In today's video, we're going to give you our tips for surviving those long haul flights and travel days. We just finished a 38-hour trip from Oaxaca, Mexico here to the Algarve in Portugal. It took us 2 taxis, 4 flights through 5 different airports. It was quite a bit of travel, but we made it and we're very happy about that.
So stick around to the very end of the video and you will hear all of our tips.
It is 4:30 in the morning, so it is an early start to what's going to be a very long 2 days of travel. So we've made it to Frankfurt, Germany, and all I can really tell you is I am exhausted. I was trying to do the math to figure out how long we've been traveling, and my brain won't do it. David said 31 hours, but then when he tried to explain it to me, I still was confused, so I'm not really sure. We made it. I could not be happier. Not as comfortable as I was hoping.
No, I could do.
But I'm going to bed now. It is 2:30 in the morning.
Go to sleep, go to sleep.
I'll feel better after a nap.
So our number one rule for any travel day is that nothing is our fault. And what I mean by that is that things are going to go wrong. It's inevitable that things are going to happen, but we just don't blame each other if something gets missed, if something gets forgotten. Blaming each other and getting mad at each other because of that stress is very counterproductive. It doesn't help. So we just get a clean slate and we don't blame each other for anything, and we just try and get through it and do the best that we can. I got this tip, someone shared it, I think in the Go With Less group. I wish I could remember who it was to thank them, because it really does help just to let go of that stress and take things as they come.
Our next tip is to pick the right flight. There are tons of options. One option is even don't take a flight at all, take a repositioning cruise, which we did a video about. You can look at that right here. But when picking a flight, try to pick a flight that's not too early in the morning. Sometimes it's going to be hard to check out of your current location too early. Don't get into a town too late. Transportation can be hard, checking in can be hard. So look at the times of your flights.
Also, if you can get more direct flights, of course, that's better. If you can minimize the amount of layovers. I mean, we had 4 on this last trip, which was a little much. It's just the way that it worked out. But if you can find a direct flight, often that's, even if you have to pay a little bit more money, it's probably going to be worth it. Another tip that we have kind of experienced for ourselves is that if you fly midweek, not only are the flights going to be a little bit cheaper, but they're often a little bit emptier. And sometimes on those long haul flights, if you can get an extra seat in your row, it just gives you that little, more extra room to kind of stretch out. So that can definitely be very helpful. So assuming you do need to have layovers, our recommendation is to give yourself long layovers. Now, some people might disagree with this and they want to just kind of get there as quickly as they can. We did survive a flight once. We flew through Ethiopia and we had a 45-minute international layover. It totally stressed us out, but it worked out in the end and it was okay. But in general, we give ourselves very long layovers when we can, just so we don't have to stress. I would rather spend a couple of extra hours hanging out in an airport than stressing the whole day. Am I going to make this connection? Am I going to make this connection? So just think about that when you're booking and give yourself that extra time.
Another thing to think about is picking your seats on the airplane. Sometimes you have to pay extra for a better seat, but think about where your seat is located. Is it near the bathroom? You might not want that on a long flight. Do you want an aisle because you're going to need to get up a lot? Or do you want a window so you can sleep and be out of the way of other people?
Another thing you can try, and this is a bit of a gamble, but it is a strategy that has worked for us before, is that if you are booking 2 seats in a 3-seat section, is that you book like the window seat and the aisle seat, and you leave that middle seat open, because that's probably a seat someone else is not going to want to choose, so they're probably going to pick other seats. And it just, if the plane doesn't end up being full, you might end up getting that extra seat in the middle for free. Whereas if you book the middle and the window seat, someone's probably going to choose that aisle seat or be more likely to. So we did this strategy on our flight from LA to Australia. It was a 15-and-a-half-hour flight, and we got lucky and it worked out, and we had that extra room for that long flight, so that was great. Kind of the gamble is that if someone does pick that middle seat, they might be willing to switch with one of you for, you know, one of those other seats so that you can still sit together. But of course they could insist they sit there, and then you're sitting, you have a person in between you. You know, there's no guarantee that someone will switch, but probably they would, because they would probably prefer, you know, an aisle or a window. That's a little gamble. It's a strategy we've tried and it's worked.
These next 2 tips, I think, are maybe the most important for me. I need to stretch and I need to hydrate. I drink lots of water all day long, and that keeps me from getting muscle aches and headaches and not sleeping well. It really saves me a lot.
And the nurse in me really likes that tip. You know, you don't often want to drink too much because you're afraid you're going to have to get up and pee. But on these long haul flights, you're going to have to pee anyway.
At some point.
Make sure you are hydrated. It's going to make you feel so much better.
And then stretching, you don't think about it because you're just sitting there, but your body really does start to tense up. And especially on a really long day, do whatever stretching helps you. I personally don't mind getting on the floor in the airport and doing a full stretch routine, but I could. But some people, you know, just touching your toes, bending over, standing up, giving your back a little twist, anything will help you on these long flights.
If you're new around here, I'm Rob.
And I'm David.
We're a long-term couple who are traveling the world full-time. We are here to give you an example of what is possible with your own long-term travels. We release a new video every Sunday, so if you're enjoying this video, this is your chance to hit that subscribe button.
This next one is super simple, and you all know already. Make sure all of your devices are fully charged before you leave on your trip. You would hate to get to your destination and be out of power and not be able to get your Uber.
Another thing is just to stay organized. So we like to write everything down so we have our full itinerary, because during the day you're going to be like, wait, what time is that flight, or how long of a layover are we going to have? So we like to have it all spelled out just so we have easy access to the information. Also, you're going to want to make sure you have a plan for like when you get there. How are you going to get from the airport to your hotel? Are you going to take an Uber? Are you going to get a taxi? Is there a bus? Is there a shuttle? You're always going to have those options. We like to have it all spelled out and have the address of whatever your hotel or Airbnb is on hand, because, you know, sometimes you can just put it in the app and it's very easy, but sometimes you need to show it to someone or remind someone. We always have it written down so that it's right there and accessible. An important thing to consider is, how are you going to use your phone in your destination country? So before you even leave, you're probably going to want to figure this out. Are you going to get an eSIM that you're going to buy before you leave that will activate when you arrive in the country? Or are you going to buy a physical SIM card? I like to always have a plan. I'll like research where in that airport I can go. Is there a particular store that I need to look for, a kiosk where I can go and get that SIM card so I can get it put in my phone right away? If you're curious about eSIMs versus SIM cards, we did do a video on that. I'll put the link to that right up here to help you make that choice for yourself.
Our next tip is get to the airport early. There's generally that get there 3 hours before a flight if it's an international rule. And a lot of people don't like to get to the airport early, but we do. We hate being late. We hate stressing about it. We hate having to worry about whether we'll get through security on time. So just get there early and alleviate all those stresses.
Yeah, you get burned once by an unusually long security line. That was so stressful, it was not worth it to us. I would much rather just hang out and not have to worry. So next up, we're gonna give you 9 things we think you should bring with you on the flight. I made a list so I can keep track. The first thing is snacks. There is nothing worse than being hungry or you get the munchies on your trip somewhere in the middle and not having anything to eat. Most of the long haul flights, they feed you pretty well, but I always like having some nuts or a candy bar or just something little, whatever you want to bring, have something with you in case you get hungry.
Next, bring a water bottle and make sure it's empty or you won't get through security. But it's always nice. There's usually a place in an airport where you can fill up your water bottle once you get through security. Not always, but if you can, it's great to have water on the flight so you don't have to be waiting for the flight attendants to bring it to you.
Yes, you want to stay hydrated.
Yes.
The next things you want to think about is making sure you can charge your devices. So we just have a little battery pack that I can use for our phones. It works really easily. So I always want to make sure I bring that with me, in my carry-on, so I've got it there. But also you want to bring the right cords, because I have been on a flight once where I brought the battery pack and I forgot to bring the cord and couldn't use it. So make sure you've got your charging cables with you, along with a little battery pack, just in case you spend too much time playing your Sudoku on your phone and you run the battery out.
Another thing to think about is a sleep mask. Some people can sleep through anything, some people cannot, and a sleep mask really helps me to get through those flights.
Another thing you want to bring is a pen. That seems so basic, but often when you're on those flights, they're going to hand out immigration forms that you're going to have to fill out, and there's nothing worse than having to wait to try and borrow a pen or not being able to fill it out until you get there. More and more of those are turning into electronic forms, but still have a pen with you. It's just going to come in handy.
Just in case.
Yeah.
We also like to bring wet wipes.
Yes.
It is so nice when you've been flying for hours and hours to just be able to wipe off your face and feel a bit refreshed.
Yeah. And you also might want to think about bringing some disinfectant wipes just to help, wipe down your area when you get on the plane, just to help avoid any kind of germs or cross-contamination. That might be something you want to bring. What else is on our list? Ibuprofen.
Oh.
There are so many times you get on that flight and because of the altitude, or if you get dehydrated a little bit, you're going to get a headache. Having some ibuprofen on hand can really save you. Again, it's just something we throw in our bag, so we make sure we have it. Is that all our 9 things?
That's 9.
I think that's our 9 things.
If you have access, take advantage of the lounges in the airports. They can be so much more comfortable than the general seating in the rest of the airport. They also going to have food and drinks and showers and all kinds of things that you can use. We have, what is ours? Priority Pass. And that gets us into a lot of lounges around the world. And when we took a long layover in Singapore once, we took such great advantage.
That was a great lounge.
It made all the difference in our flight.
Another thing I just wanted to throw in here, and David kind of already talked about it, but it's just the importance of stretching while you are on the flight. I'm a nurse, and so it's just sort of always in the back of my head that when you sit down for long periods of time, you just increase your risk of developing blood clots in your legs. It's rare, but it's possible. And so you just want to make sure you are stretching. Some people will talk about just flexing your ankles as you're sitting there in your seat, or you can spell out the alphabet with your toes on the floor, whatever. It's just about mimicking walking or getting up and stretching so that you don't develop any blood clots, because those can be very dangerous, and you are at increased risk when you're just sitting in a chair for 15 hours. Another thing you might want to consider are compression socks. Those can also work just to minimize any swelling. Everybody's a little different what you're going to need and what you find comfortable, but it's something you might want to consider just for your own health. Another tip is to have a realistic plan for what you're going to do with your travel day. So I'm one of those people, I always think, we're gonna have this really long day, so we'll be able to, plan future things and talk about what activities we wanna do. And I get all these ideas in my head, and then on the actual day, I don't do anything. I am not productive on travel days. I just want to sit there and veg out a little bit and try and relax to get through it. So that can be frustrating if you have this idea you're going to get something done and then you don't. So I just have learned that I give myself a break. I am not going to be productive on travel days. I just want to try and get through them as best that I can.
Lastly, be patient and kind. We already told you our rule about being patient and kind with each other, but spread that around to everyone. Airports are just stressful places. Everyone's trying to get somewhere quickly. Flights are being changed. Things are out of people's control. So be kind to other passengers. Be kind to the people working there. Just do your best to make this a better world.
Today and not tomorrow.